Are you serious? Are you serious? We've got information, and it's wow. President Trump wanted to see if he had the options to bomb Iran's nuclear facility before leaving the White House, if he's leaving the White House. Okay. And that's still not determined. Let's get some coffee. Incredible information here. Good to see everybody. Can I put a shout out real fast? Let's hear a word from one of our sponsors. Then this is an incredible story I want to share with you. And first of all, I'm telling you right now, guys, this little flashlight is incredible, and I am really impressed with it. It's called, you go to www.fighterflare.com. This thing is bright, okay? I mean bright, or if it's too bright, you can dim it down, okay? Like that, you can dim it down. You can use it as a strobe if you need to, or if you're having an emergency situation, you can just light the whole thing up with blue and red and white lighting if you're in an emergency thing, and set the thing on top of the car and let people know what's going on. Also, you've got a compass on this, and you can unscrew this and pull out a rope. You can wrap the rope around here, okay, if you need to pull something. It's got a magnet on it. If you drop something and you can't reach underneath somewhere to get it, maybe between the seats or underneath the car. It's got a breaker, a window breaker on it. Boom. You can actually break out a car window with this thing. This thing is so heavy. It's incredible. I mean, it's got everything. It's just incredible. What an incredible tool here. I'm impressed, guys. I am really, really impressed with this. And here's the deal. Because murder is on the rise in this country. For instance, Los Angeles, it's 20% increase in murders in 2020. It's dangerous out there, guys. It really is. And I personally don't want to take any chances. I'm putting this flashlight in my car and in Heidi's car. Okay. Look, I recommend you put it in your daughter's car. And the family needs to have you need to be, oh, by the way, you can, if your cell phone dies on you while you're out there somewhere, maybe camping or just on the side of the road, you can charge your cell phone right here. That's a USB port. And get this, you don't need batteries. You don't have to plug this thing in. All it needs is sunlight. It's solar charged. What? Incredible, guys. Incredible. It's incredible. And just go to www.fighterflare.com. That's www.fighterflare.com. I think you'll really, and it comes in this beautiful box with all the information in it. Look, perfect Christmas gift. Perfect Christmas gift for some of your family members, okay? Guys, here's the deal. President Trump he was just and discussed, he brought in his top generals, Joint Chief of Staff. He brought the Vice President was there. Mike Pompeo was there. The President of the United States wanted to see if he had options to bomb Iran. And really, this is to protect Israel and the entire Middle East, for that matter. Israel and Saudi Arabia, very nervous on what's going to happen if Iran is able to get their nuclear capability. Let me just share with you an article that just came out on this. Trump sought options for attacking Iran to stop its growing nuclear program. President Trump asked senior advisors in the Oval Office in a meeting he had last Thursday whether he had options to take actions against Iran's main nuclear site in the coming weeks. The meeting occurred a day after the international inspectors reported a significant increase in the country's stockpile of nuclear material. 4 current and former U.S. officials are all saying this yesterday. A range of senior advisors were in the Oval Office to discuss and to try to persuade the president from moving ahead with this military strike. Those advisors were Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, also Christopher Miller was in there. He's the acting defense secretary because Trump fired Mark Esper and replaced him with the acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller. He was there. Also, General Mark A. Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They all warned that a strike against Iran's facilities could easily escalate into a broader conflict in the weeks of President Trump's presidency. And any sight of this first term, any strike, whether by missile or cyber, would almost certainly be focused on the Nanance, where that's that plant called Nanance, where the International Atomic Energy Agency reported on Wednesday that Iran's uranium stockpile was now 12 times higher than permitted under the nuclear accord that President Trump abandoned back in 2018, the Iranian nuke deal that was signed by Barack Obama and the other 6 major nations, which included Russia, China, Great Britain, France, Germany, and there was one other one, I can't remember. These nations had all come together and had put this deal together. Trump abandoned it in 2018 because he felt it was simply so weak. It just allowed these guys to produce more and more nuclear material and could actually have the bomb. President Trump asked his top national security aides what options were available and how to respond. After Mr. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and General Milley described the potential risk of military escalation, officials left the meeting believing a missile strike inside Iran was off the table. But according to administration officials with knowledge of the meeting, President Trump might still be looking at ways to strike Iran and their assets and maybe even their allies, including those Iranian militants that are operating in Iraq right now. And that would include ISIS, guys, certainly. A smaller group of national security aides had met late Wednesday to discuss Iran the day before the meeting with the President of the United States. White House officials did not respond when asked for comments. The episode underscores President Trump still faces an array of global threats in these final weeks in office, and a strike on Iran may play well to his base, which is largely opposed to deeper American conflicts in the Middle East. Exactly. We don't want any more wars in the Middle East, but we don't want a nuclear Iran. And if these are Trump's final weeks, and I still don't know yet, it could poison relations, certainly, with a lot of people. But I think the United States is more concerned about a nuclearized Iran and what it means to the Middle East. Like I said before, Saudi Arabia, very concerned about it. So is Israel. And certainly Israel just not going to tolerate, they can't afford to tolerate a nuclear Iran. Everybody put a thumbs up if you would. I know we're a little early today, but this is such a big story. We had to get it out there because you have to understand, right now we're in this gray area where the election has not been certified yet by any of the states. It hasn't been voted on, which that happens on December 14th by the Electoral College. And we have all kinds of, court cases going. So in this limbo moment, in this limbo state, there's still real world threats out there. And Iran is one of them. And if President Trump may decide to bomb their nuclear facilities before leaving office, he wants to at least clear the deck of any potential threats that Iran could have against Israel or Saudi Arabia or the rest of the Middle East, and to hold everybody hostage. He would rather clear the deck off so that at least in the next 4 years, Iran would be pushed back by another pushed back by 10 years. Okay. And I think this is why he's looking at this so strongly. Also, I'm sure that Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, is urging with behind the scenes, he must be urging the president to take a look at every possible option And so would be the Saudi Arabians. So guys, this is unbelievable. What I'm trying to tell you is right now this is true. We could be on the brink. I don't think, the question would be, some people would say, if the president does this and wipes out those nuclear facilities over there, that could spark World War III, and maybe so. I think what it would probably do, though, I don't think it would. I think instead it would definitely set Iran back for 10 years. But it may give an excuse to the other ideology, the other thoughts to create some kind of jihad, some kind of wide open, raging ground war of terrorism across the entire world in different cities like Paris, France, Berlin, Germany, Cologne, Germany, Nice, Germany, maybe over in Sweden where they've got problems, Brussels, Belgium. I mean, all throughout Europe, you would probably see these systematic attacks of terrorism, maybe even here in the United States, certainly Canada, maybe Australia. The Western world and the Europeans would there would be some kind of a call for retaliation, but they couldn't overthrow any of these nations, and they couldn't overthrow Israel or Saudi Arabia, because it would end that. So there's two schools of thought. I'm sure these generals were thinking this all the way through. Of course, they have a lot more better intel than I have or you have. This is a great question for Mike from around the world on Thursday night. This might even be a great question for Agent X or even Agent 2020, just to get some of their ideal thought process on what would be the ramification, what would be the blowback if President Trump, he has a right to do it, folks. He is the president of the United States. It doesn't matter that we're in this limbo state. Doesn't matter. He is the president of the United States, and this is an imminent threat to the Middle East, including our number one ally over there, Israel. And of course, from a biblical standpoint, what would this mean? Now, I remember John Hagee. He wrote a book 20 years ago called Jerusalem Countdown. I read the book, and he said in the book that the number one threat to the Middle East will be a nuclear Iran, and that if they ever became nuclear capable, like North Korea or Pakistan or India or somebody, even if they only had a few nukes, one is too many, because one nuke hitting Tel Aviv, killing 1 million people, changes the whole world. And that could happen. I don't know if they would bomb Jerusalem because they don't really want to wipe out, but then again, they might drop a bomb on Tel Aviv and then send in all kinds of ground troops from Syria, from Hezbollah, from southern Lebanon, Hamas, from everywhere. Okay. So Hagee's correct. I really believe that. John Hagee, which I know he knows, is very correct on this, that this is still ultimately the countdown to Jerusalem. And let me remind everyone, when I had my last conversation with Dr. Chuck Missler, I probably should go back and replay it from 2015. I was actually on the road in Canada, getting ready to preach there, and was sick with hepatitis A and didn't know it. I was so ill, I ended up in the hospital the next day. I was running like 102 fever, but this was the only time Chuck Missler could do an interview because he was in New Zealand. And we did the interview, and it was about an hour long. But in the interview, I said to Dr. Chuck Missler, I said, what is the next big biblical event that you see coming? And he said, it is Ezekiel 38, the battle of Gog, Magog, or the attack, he said. We can put it this way if you want to. It could be called Psalms 83. One or the other, they both will trigger each other. One chicken, which comes first, guys, the chicken or the egg? He said, it doesn't matter. That's the next big event. It's the attack on Israel, the attack to try to overthrow the Jewish state of Israel. And he said, that is still it. So if you're sitting there looking at this from a biblical standpoint, I really think that Dr. Chuck Missler is onto something here. And I would have loved to have been talking today again with the late Dr. Irvin Baxter, because he was going to share with us where we're at and which path did he see prophecy going to go, depending on which president was in the office in the next 4 years. And he had 2 paths. But he died, of course, on the election day, November 3rd. We won't know what that prophecy was. Let me say this, that John Hagee's right. Chuck Missler's right. The Bible is right. Zechariah is right. Read it, Zechariah 12. Jerusalem will become a cup of trembling, a burdensome stone for all people. So can I read that right now, just that one portion? I want to thank you for 1,000 people showing up here spontaneously without announcement to be here. I think that's just you guys. It shows you your dedication. It's brilliant. Oh, by the way, I just posted a video also. If you got the app, go watch it. I can't even say what it's about. You'll see it. Just go there and watch it. It's about a 2-minute video, and it's over at my app. Okay. I just posted it. Let me just throw this at you. Here we go. Zechariah. Give me 1 second here. I'm sorry. I'm having a little bit of problem. This is really scary when this starts happening to me, but it does happen occasionally when I can't remember where Zechariah is. What? There it is. Anyway, you say, Pastor, how can that be? Don't ask. Oh, here we go. Don't say age either, because some of us are getting a little older. What? Are you serious? Here's what it says. Zechariah chapter 12 says, the burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith the Lord, which stretches forth the heavens and layeth the foundation of the earth and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. So that would be the Judean mountains, which is the West Bank, by the way. So the siege would be enemies coming over the borders to try to siege, to take over the West Bank as well as the city of Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people, and all that burden themselves with it shall be cut into pieces. If Jerusalem is a problem, in other words, I'll make it a problem for all people. And if you have a problem with Israel and a problem with Jerusalem and the Jewish people, then the Lord says you could be cut into pieces. All right. Though all the people of the earth should even gather against it. Listen, remember what God said in Zechariah 2. Don't touch the apple of God's eye. Don't touch the apple of God's eye. And, you know, I've used this example. If I take off these glasses, I can't hardly handle it. I got to put them. If I leave these off, and if I'm in the sunlight or if I'm in this studio lights, a piercing pain will hit this left eye because of the damage I had to the eye from the stroke in December. The eye, and I've come down here before, and I've got started working and not realize I don't have these on. I got the other glasses, and all of a sudden that piercing eye would hit me so hard. And when that happens, then you know, I remember then. And one day I was having that pain, and the Lord said, "Now you know how I feel when they touch my land of my holy land, when they touch the land of Israel, when they touch the apple of my eye." And that's not a good thing. So the Lord said he will do this. So I'm just here to say, let me read to you one more verse. And in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. So it would not be a good thing to attack, but this is why John Hagee wrote the book, Countdown to Jerusalem. This is why Dr. Chuck Missler keeps talking about what's going to happen in Jerusalem. This is why Dr. Lester Summerall made 50 trips in his lifetime to Jerusalem. This is why Perry Stone's been there 35 times. This is why Dr. Irvin Baxter went 25 times. I've been there 10 times. I can say that there's these other prophetic Dr. Misler and Mike Huckabee even, and even now. Why is this so important? Because up on this Temple Mount right here, this is the Dome of the Rock where the Muslim women pray. Way over here is the what's called Solomon Stables over in that area, but it's also the Al-Aqsa Mosque where the men pray. 8,000 can fit in there praying. And up on this Temple Mount, this is considered the third holiest site for Islam. But right over here, right there is a little bit of, right there, you see that little gazebo over top that? It's because there's a stone. You can see a stone there. It's part of the rock mountain top. That's considered the foundation stone. So the temple set right in this area. So they could build a third temple, because this is, you can't tell by this picture, but this is quite large. They could build a third temple right in here and not tear down this, not affect this. And there's the foundation stone is here, so they could use the foundation stone as also the foundation stones under here. So you could have a third temple here. Dome of the Rock would stay there. The Al-Aqsa Mosque would stay where it's at. Jews could come and pray at the temple. Muslims could still pray at their mosque. And this used to be by the way, this was built in the Byzantine period. This is actually a church, a Byzantine church that was later captured and turned into the Dome of the Rock, used by the Muslims. So that's, a lot of people don't realize this was actually a church. This building was built by a church. It was a church about 350 AD, and people don't realize that. So there's room up here for all religions, the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians. Now, according to the book of Revelation, the Christians the Bible tells us, John on the Isle of Patmos got a vision from the Lord. If you read Revelation chapter 11, it tells you that he measured the temple. He measured it. God put a line in his hand, a pencil in his hand, and he measured it. He drew it out. And he said, but don't even put an outer court on it, because that's for the Gentiles. Well, that would be, in other words, for the Christians who would be coming in from around the world. So Christians would be up on the outer court, walking around, okay, praying, because this where Jesus used to be up here performing miracles. Jews would be going into the temple, the third temple, worshiping, and Muslims would still be going and praying during their at their Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the women of the Islamic women be praying still at the Dome of the Rock. And also, and according to Yehuda Glick, they would also build a museum up here, because this is 35 acres. They would build a museum up here, which would be used for anyone and all tourists to come and learn about the history of Jerusalem. This city behind me, folks, has been captured 29 times. 29 times it has been captured and under different rule. Besides Israeli rule, it's been under the Ottoman Empire for 400 years, the Persian Empire, the Roman Empire, the Muslims, of course, controlled it. The Crusaders controlled it. And I'm trying to think. I think there might have been another one. The Babylonians came and invaded it and destroyed the first temple in 586 BC. The Greeks were here. I mean, this city has been controlled by 29 different times. It's been taken over. The British Empire had it for 30 years under the British Mandate. I mean, I can't think. I'm trying to think of them on the top of my head. So what I'm trying to say is, you're looking behind it right now. We live in our little short lifetime. Since 1948, Israel's been a nation. But folks, the history of this ancient city goes back even way before Jesus Christ, when King David was here, when King Solomon was here. And so before that, what about the Canaanites and all the rest of the tribes that were giant tribes that roamed the Holy Land, as Satan was trying to hold back the coming of the Messiah and planting giants. They landed. Where do you think these fallen angels fell? They fell on Mount Hermon, which is not far from Jerusalem. And you can see it right over there, right over the border in Syria. And Mount Hermon is where the fallen ones fell. And giants, of course, were integrated because of the Genesis 6. And so these demon spirits, these giants, roamed this land to protect it and hold it for Lucifer. And of course, the Garden of Eden had been in this area. So, he was trying to hold on to the power of the earth. But God said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God sent not his son in the world to condemn the world, but the world through him might be saved. So let me say right now, everything I'm telling you is I'm giving you the historical account. I'm giving you the biblical account when the temple was destroyed in 586 BC. And don't forget, after the Babylonians desecrated it and destroyed the first temple, Solomon's temple, they took the children of Israel captive and took them into Babylon. For the next 70 years, they were slaves to the Babylonians. But then King Cyrus, who was a Persian king from Iran, said after 70 years, he said, these Jewish people, they need to be allowed to go home. He sent them back home and gave them gold and silver and funds to rebuild the temple, to reestablish their house of worship. This is why President Trump a lot of time would be compared to King Cyrus, because he's a Gentile. Trump's a Christian, but he's a Gentile who wanted to reestablish the third temple in Jerusalem. And people are, and so even now that President Trump would be considering bombing Iran, some would say that is an insane act. That's a last minute desperation. That's him trying to stay in the White House. You'll hear all the pundits out there. But the truth is, it's just like he declared Israel, Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, he fulfilled Bible prophecy. And just like when he moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, he was fulfilling biblical prophecy by declaring Jerusalem the capital city of Israel and the eternal city of God, which is what it says in Psalms chapter 48. So if he wanted to take out Iran, he would be only operating under the anointing of biblical prophecy. Believe me, when King Cyrus let the Jews go back to Israel after 70 years and took with them, he let them have gold and silver, it was not a popular decision in the Persian kingdom, the Persian Empire. They were angry with King Cyrus for sending away their servants and slaves and part of their treasure. But he didn't care if it was popular or not. He did it because he was under the spirit of biblical prophecy. In other words, under the hand of God. I hope this was a good teaching on this, because I know this isn't talked about very much. Get ready for the two witnesses. Get ready. The third temple will be built. Get ready. Things are going to accelerate one way or the other. So if Trump doesn't bomb Iran, which apparently they talked him out of it, or they wouldn't let him, the generals, does that mean that messed up prophecy? Nope. God's in control. Trump was just trying to do what he thinks needs to be done, but God ultimately is in control of this. It's unbelievable. Give your life to Jesus Christ. I'll be back at 12 noon Eastern. We're going to have a great program for you. 12 o'clock Eastern, I'll be live on the coming apocalypse. Are you serious? Get some coffee. You're going to need it. Where's my coffee?